The following was recorded in front of a live studio audience at the Studio 21 Podcast Café. This is the United Podcast Network.
Welcome to the Writer's Block Podcast NH. This is a podcast designed by writers for writers on the journey to being published. Joined Mandra Biscornet.
It was so healthy and nutritious.
Deborah Monk.
Can we open each podcast with a dance number?
Shelley Devlin.
It was so full of inspiration and sparkles.
Every Tuesday morning live on YouTube. And make sure you subscribe to catch the podcast anytime on iTunes, iHeartRadio, Podbean, Spotify, or your favorite podcast catcher. It's time to be inspired, feel empowered, and be well with the Writer's Block Podcast NH.
And welcome to the Writer's Block Podcast. I'm Mandra.
I'm Debbie.
And we are missing Shelley today.
Sending her our love.
Sending her our love and our energy, yes. And thank you all for joining us here at the Writer's Block, where our mission is to inspire, empower, and to help people be well. So in some past episodes, we've talked some about the editing process and what it's like to receive those edits and where you go from there. Today, though, we're going to see what it's like on the other side of the fence and get the editor's perspective. To help us do that, we have a special guest, Miss Shirley Jump.
Hi, guys.
Hi, Shirley. Welcome.
I got light coming in here, so I'll try at some point to close that.
Okay.
No
problem. Shirley is an award-winning New York Times and USA Today best-selling author who has published more than 70 books. She has written for Harlequin, Berkeley, and Grand Central, and has published romance, women's fiction, and teen horror. In the spring 2019, her fourth nonfiction book will be released, Vance Johnson Uncovered, a biography written by the former Denver Bronco and NFL superstar. Shirley also does content editing, author coaching, and teaches writing, both online and in person. So Shirley is truly the full package and knows writing from every angle, and we are thrilled to have you on the show with us today, Shirley.
Thank you. Yes,
Thank you.
And thanks for having me. And I'm sorry, like my video, I was not prepared for the video part, so sorry that's kind of weird, and everybody opened the blinds on me this morning. So.
That's okay. We can make it work. Shirley's actually joining us from sunny Florida today.
Yes.
So, Shirley, let's get started. How do you decide what writing?
Before we
sorry.
get there, I
Yeah.
didn't mean to interrupt, but how do you do 70 books?
Yeah.
I'm not good at anything else, so I'm very grateful that they pay me to do that. I don't know. I love my job. I've done it my whole life. I published my first thing when I was 11, and I don't know anything else. I really don't.
Wow, 70.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have seven
Yeah.
between us. Okay, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
That's okay.
but I
No,
heard
that's
that-
okay.
I
No,
had
that's
read
a
the bio
big
before,
yeah.
but then when you said it out loud, I'm literally thinking of the pile.
Right.
Do you have do you have your Grammy shelf of all your books?
I do have some of them up on the shelves in my office. Well, Joe's office. I don't actually work in an office. I work on the couch because I'm,
Because
lazy.
you can.
And
That's where I do my
they're
writing.
there. I don't look at them. I don't think about it. I just don't think about it. I really don't. I've been doing it. My first book came out in 2003. So it's 16 years. It's not too bad
Wow.
for 16 years.
Are they sequels? Like, are they?
Some
Part
are,
of a
some
collection?
aren't. There's some series that I've got. I think books number 7 and 8 are coming out in the summer, and some series are just 3 or 4 books, and then some are just standalone.
I think that's 4 a year if I did my math right. No, it's more than 4 a year.
Yeah, there was years when that was my sole support income. So, yeah, I would write as many things as they allowed me to.
Wow. Turning out 4 a year.
Okay, well,
Yeah.
yeah.
It gets easier when they pay you. I was writing like one every 9 months before I sold, and now I'm like, okay, there's a paycheck waiting at the end of this. I will.
You
write
got to
pretty
get
fast.
it done.
right.
Yeah. Now
Yes,
you got to
yeah.
get it
The
done.
pot of gold.
And
Right.
That doesn't include my ghostwriting too. I have several that I've ghostwritten, and I don't count those in the 70. So
Oh wow.
Yeah.
So 70 something.
Yes.
yeah,
Ish.
yeah.
Once you get
Yeah.
over 50, you don't. It's like birthdays.
You stop counting. Really.
All right,
Yeah.
back to you, Mandra.
Okay, so tell us about the other side, though, about the editing process, because that's what we've been diving into here and there on the show.
Right.
How do you decide what projects you take, and how does that all work?
Well, I look at everything before I decide whether I'm going to take it on. And I look at a bunch of different factors. One, how much time it's going to take. And if I have that kind of time in my schedule at that particular moment. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. Secondly, I can work with anyone if they have a natural storytelling ability. If they don't, there's nothing I can teach them to do that. You either have it or you don't. And if somebody has that ability to tell a story, regardless of whether it's fiction or nonfiction, then I can mold that and shape that. I can teach them how to do show, not tell. I can teach them how to do scenes. I can teach them how to improve their dialogue. But I cannot teach that natural ability. When I was in Fort Wayne, when I still lived in Fort Wayne, we had season tickets to the NBA D-League team. And those are the guys that are not quite ready for prime time yet. So they practice at the D-League level. And you could watch on the floor and know, just like innately somehow, that guy's got it, that one doesn't. And 9 times out of 10, we were right about which guy would go to the NBA and which guy wouldn't. There's just that little bit of magic that you see instinctually. And you know that those people have that ability. And those are the people that I'll work with.
And then what do you say to the others?
What do you say to the others? That's a great question.
But I'm usually kind and just say I'm too busy, or I don't have room in my schedule, or come back to me. And I have one guy I've been working with for a while now, and he wants to pay me a whole bunch of money every month and to edit his book. And I finally said, listen, I've done 3 chapters. It's not getting any better. I want you to go back and keep doing chapter 1 until it's done and it's ready, and then move forward. And if they can learn from there, then we have something to work with. So, and sometimes the excerpt that they send me to as a sample is not indicative of the entire project. So sometimes it needs a lot more work than I anticipated.
Oh, they send you the best.
Yes.
Right.
What do you ask for as far as a sample? You ask for a few pages, or
whatever they want to send me, like 10, 20 pages is good. Sometimes I don't edit it necessarily. Some people do want me to do a sample edit, and I will, but I only will spend a certain amount of time on that, because otherwise I can get sucked in for days. But I can send people examples of the editing that I've done, so you can see how extensive it is. And some people like to send a couple pages. Some people like to send 20. Some people send the whole book. Just all depends on who they are.
Yeah.
Now, what is this natural storytelling ability? Can you describe it, or is it like sort of that elusive magic?
Yeah.
It is an elusive magic, but it's the kind of thing, like I read The Shack. Did you guys read The Shack? It's that Christian book, and they made the movie out of it about God and Christ and everything. The guy can't write. I mean, he has grammatical errors. He has missing commas. It's kind of all over the place in terms of sentence structure. But I read it without paying attention to those things. And if you can get me to read without paying attention to everything that's wrong with it, then you're doing something right. And not every book can. I read a lot of books every year. Most of them I don't get past the first 3 pages because I'm so consumed by the mistakes that I can't get into the story. So it's that natural storytelling ability that just grabs me, and I've got to know how it ends.
What about, because this is a concern that we've heard from some authors, is, well, it's not going to sound like me. If it gets edited too much, then it's not going to be my voice or my tone. So how do you kind of capture that and keep that authenticity with the authors that you work with?
I do a significant amount of nonfiction editing for my day job. I work as a director of publishing for a hybrid publisher. And they all say that. Everybody says that in the initial meeting. Yep. And I listen to them, like sometimes the first chapter or two, like Vance Johnson's biography that I'm doing right now. The first chapter I did, Vance is like, it doesn't really sound like me. So I sat down, I listened to him for a good hour or 2 hours. And then I sent him back a new draft. He's like, that's exactly like me. So it's a matter of paying attention to the people, getting to know them. Because I can't tell how you write or how you sound from a 5-minute conversation, but I can from some longer conversations or longer writing samples. Now, I've worked with some people that aren't super educated. And so I could make it sound like them, but then it's not going to put them in a good light. So they're always welcome to reject any changes that I make. But I said, the main goal here is to get this message out or to teach people about this or whatever it is. So let's work towards that goal rather than it sounding exactly like you. Sometimes. It's not very often, but every once in a while.
Interesting.
Yeah, because we do hear that a lot. And it sounds like, people are concerned with working with an editor because they don't want to have something sound like somebody else or use words that they wouldn't typically use.
Right. But that's if I'm rewriting, which I try not to do. My goal is I will rewrite. If you pay me enough, I'll rewrite anything. But if you truly want to learn how to write, then I will work with people on a scene by scene or chapter by chapter basis, depending on how quickly they want to move, and let them figure out how to do it. I will rewrite it sometimes because I'm much better at showing you what I want you to do rather than telling you. Because I can say, okay, make this more emotion in this section. If you don't know how to do that already, you can't just do it because I said that, right?
Right.
So I will rewrite it and say, here's how you can show more emotion. And I'll say, see how I narrowed it on this, this, and this. Mm-hmm. That's what brings it out. You don't have to use it. You can if you want. I don't care.
Well, then they could take their own stab at it, right? Because then you've shown them, so they can say, oh, okay, now I know what you mean. Let me give it a shot.
Exactly. Yeah. Right. And that's my goal. I don't want to write, 10 more books a year. I really don't. I'd rather people learn on their own and then they can be successful and go off and do their own stuff. Huh. Now, the other thing I find too is a lot of people aren't happy to hear that there's things wrong with their books. And I get that. Every time I get a revision letter, I got to take a day to process it and be like, they hate my baby. And then suck it up and be, okay, so this does make sense. I had a lady that I worked with on a freelance editing project on her first book, and I ripped it apart. It had a lot of plot and structural errors, and I really ripped it apart. Then the poor woman, she's like so angry, and she's like, I'll never work with her again. And she hated what I did. And I kind of felt bad, but then I also thought, that's what this book needs. And if you're not ready to hear it, and you're not ready to be published. And now I'm the only editor she works with. We're 10 books in, and I'm the only editor she works with.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you got through that.
Right.
That hard part. Yeah.
Yeah, she got past it. Yeah.
Well, that brings us to the question on your bio. It says that you teach writing as well.
Mm-hmm.
And so I've asked the question many times on the show here. How do you become and Amanda shakes her head. How do you become a better writer? Really, actually, I don't care about anybody else. How do I become? We're
just talking about Deb
in
here.
general.
Yes.
Right.
Hypothetically.
That's something I try to do every year because I'm not the same writer I was in 2003. And I don't want to be the same writer in 2029. I want to be a better writer every book that I do. So there's a multitude of things you do to be a better writer. You watch movies and TV shows and you really pay attention to how they show instead of tell, and how they grip you and make you want to stay there through the commercials. Because nowadays, if you stay through the commercials for something, then they have really gripped you because everybody's got DVRs, they can fast forward. Then I read really good writing that I can never hope to write as well as those people, and really, really study them. Why did I latch onto this character who's so evil? Why did I care how it turns out? Kind of like, Hannibal Lecter in Silence of the Lambs. In a sick way, I'm like, well, I do hope he gets away, because I liked him and he was smart. So how does an author do that? And then I try harder with every book that I write. I really try to push myself to be better. And there's times when I'll get back my galleys and I'll look at them like, I didn't write that. My editor must have written that. There's no way I put that in there. And I'll go back. I'm like, oh, that's pretty good. And I did put it in.
Kind of surprise yourself.
Yeah.
I
Yes,
love when
exactly.
that happens.
Yeah. You don't settle for mediocrity. And I want to be better all the time. And I'm always open to learning. I've met best-selling authors who say they have a no editing clause in their contracts, and they're very proud of it. And God forbid I ever get to that point, because that means I'm not ready to learn and grow. And I think you learn and grow until the day you die. Mm-hmm. So I don't ever want to have that particular part of my contract.
Wow. Yeah, neither would I. That would be, sorry.
Well, no, because if you're going to have an editor who's going to help show you how to write better, then there's
why wouldn't you want that, right?
Why wouldn't you want that? And then what do you do in your classes that help? Are your classes beginner writers or people that have already been writing?
And are they in person or online?
Yeah. What type
of
student?
Both and both. I'm going to Friday I leave to go to Midland, Texas, and I'm teaching, I don't remember what group I am, but I'm teaching a plot mastery class. And so the first half of the day, we are, I'm explaining how to do a plot and a little bit deeper than just goal, motivation, conflict, a little bit more than that. And then in the second half, I've sent everybody out a worksheet and said, if you want me to critique your plot, fill this out and then give it back to me, and I'll critique those in the afternoon and work through plot problems with people. I love that part. I love the puzzle of a book. I absolutely get all excited. Oh, we can do this and this and this and structure it this way. That to me is super fun. I teach online for margielawson.com, and it's a variety of classes. This month I'm doing revision, an intensive on revision for 2 weeks, where we're going to take homeworks. People are going to revise them. I'm going to critique them. They're going to revise it again. And we just hammer on that for 2 solid weeks. And then I'm doing like a basic romance writing 101 class in April. So it's a variety of things. I'm teaching all over the country this year. I think I've got 6 speaking engagements right now. And I teach almost every month online at Margie Lawson.
Wow, I wish I could go to Texas on Friday.
You can go to Canada with me in March. I'm going to Canada.
What are you teaching in Canada?
I think I'm teaching it's either Ottawa or Ontario. It's one of the O places. I don't remember which one, but yeah, it's going to be cold. I'm not too happy about that, but it'll be beautiful.
Yes, it won't be 75 degrees there in March.
No, I'll just stay in my room.
With how busy you are, do you give yourself a certain page count per day that you have to write when you're working on something for yourself?
Well, I'm not so disciplined on my own stuff. So I have a deadline. I think I have a deadline right now of April 1st. And I don't, as much as I know, I should probably write, okay, 2 pages today, 2 pages tomorrow. And a lot of times I do set that goal. Let's do 2,500 words a day and we'll finish it on time. But I get bored easily and I don't like to have the whole book kind of drag out. So I really kind of condense it into a shortened timeline a lot of times because I'm just as excited to find out what happens next. I very much plot by the seat of my pants. And so that makes it interesting for me. And I do work a lot of hours. But my personal writing usually happens before lunch and then the rest of the day is given over to everything else.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So you're a pantser just like Deb is.
Right.
Yeah.
Which is funny that you're going to teach a plot class.
Well, here's the thing though. I'm a pantser who has written 85, 90 books, I think altogether. So at a certain point, you figure it out in your head and it's just like I liken it to playing basketball. When you first start playing basketball, you don't know anything. You kind of watch some videos, you pay attention to some other players. But until you dribble and practice, you don't get that innate sense for when you should turn right, when you should turn left, when you should do a 3-pointer, when you should, try to take the foul. Those things come with experience. And so when I first started writing, I planned everything. And I was just like, okay, so I got to remember to have conflict here. And I'd get lost in the middle like a lot of people do all the time. And then go back to, okay, what's the problem? Oh, I don't have a goal for this scene, or this is in the wrong point of view because this character doesn't have that much to lose. But now 70, 80, 90, whatever books down the road, it's all in here and it all cooks in the back of my head. The one that's due April 1st is cooking right now. And I pray that we'll be there when I start writing so that it's ready to go. But it always happens. And I will tell you that every single book, every single one, I get to like the 2/3 point and I think, this is never going to work out. This is a stupid plot. I'm not going to be able to pull this all together. I'm not going to make it work. It's never going to happen. Why do I have this job? And then I get to the end, I'm like, oh, that was great. I've got to do that again. It's stupid.
So you don't get rid of the self-doubt after 70 books, do you?
That's really good to know.
No, you do. You worry about every single one. I've learned to not check reviews. I don't check them at all. I don't ask for my scores if I enter a contest. I just don't want to know. And people will be weird about certain things that they hate, or there's people that will hate your books just for one reason or another. So if I just stay away from that, it never interferes with my own mental process. I can't make everybody happy, so I'm not ice cream.
No, you're not.
No.
Well, the thing, because the way we found Shirley is a friend of ours, Barb Wallace, who's going to be on or is scheduled to be on our show as well. I had reached out to her, so Shirley is editing Dave's book, and now we both know that I love Howard, my editor, who now you're working with, Mandra, and he said he was going to be the midwife that would help me deliver the best book that I could. And although he says the book is done, we know I haven't felt comfortable, so I sent it to Shirley, and the thing she wrote back to me that just hit me so hard was the first thing you need is for the reader to have a why. When a reader sits down to read one of my books, I'm very cognizant of the fact that she is giving me hours of her life to do that. Hours, period, her period, life. That's an important thing, and I take it seriously. So what is the why? So she asked me that question, and I just thought, that's a fabulous question. What is your why? And if you can't, I think what I took from Shirley's comment there is, if you can't answer that, the book isn't done.
Exactly. Yes. And I'm working, like I said, I'm working on Vance Johnson's book that'll be out in April. And he's in recovery. He had a significant substance abuse problem between pills and alcohol. And he just couldn't get clean. And then he did this mock funeral for his son who had died. And he realized when he did that in group that he had a why. His why is his kid. And his dead kid that he wasn't there for, is what drives him every single day to get out of bed and be the best recovering addict he can, the best leader for the other people who are watching him and want to get recovery. And it's the same thing in a book. If somebody is going to give me that precious gift of their life, and maybe it's because I'm in my 50s now, I'm just like, okay, that all matters now. There's a lot less time left on the other side. Then I want it to be worth their time. I don't want to waste a moment of their lives. And so the why for me is, how is it going to make that reader's life better? How is it going to enrich her experience? How is it going to be better than sitting down with her kids or her husband or watching Netflix? That's all very critical to me. I don't want her to be reading it and regretting that she spent those 4 hours away from playing Legos with her son. You know what I mean?
Right.
So yeah, it's got to be important and it's got to be good.
Well, that one question I know is going to stick with me for the rest of my life. Whenever I'm writing,
you're writing,
I know
yeah.
it's going to really. I'm going to need to know that answer. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Right.
maybe I'll have to finish the book before I know it. But once I know it, I'll go back and make
And
sure.
tie it
yes.
in.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, but I think you
Yeah.
will know it. I think you'll, as you do that revision, within those first 3 chapters, you generally, at least in my experience, you know why, because that gives you the structure for the whole rest of the book. And when I was earlier in my career, I would take the thing I wanted my reader to learn and put it on a little piece of paper up above my computer screen so that I would look at it every day and look at my book and say, does this feed into that? If it doesn't need to be there. In my classes, I tell people all the time, these are words. They're not oxygen. You can live without them. You can cut them. They're not going to, destroy your life. They're not babies. They're words. Let them go and make new ones. And every once in a while, I'll lose a chapter, or I'll lose, I lost my PowerPoints that I've got to deliver in March. And my fiance was just like, aren't you upset? I said, no, this is a chance to make it better the second time. I figure there's a reason for everything. And if it's gone, I'll make it better the second time.
Wow. Well,
know.
good attitude.
Yeah.
Good information.
Good advice.
Yes.
Shirley, where can people find you?
ShirleyJump.com for
Okay.
sure. You can contact me through my website. MargieLawson.com is where I teach. And Shirley at ShirleyJump.com if you want to email me. Margie, MargieLawson. And then email me, Shirley at ShirleyJump.com. Or look for me to speak at your local group sometime soon. I've got, like I said, 5 this year.
Wow.
Great. Well, thank you so much for coming on today.
Yes.
you for having me.
Thank you. This was great. Lots of good advice. Stay warm there in Florida, Shirley. Thank you, everybody, for listening. And thank you to the Studio 21 Podcast Café. Please check out the Writer's Block NH Facebook, the Writer's Block podcast on your favorite podcast catcher. And if you'd like to hear this episode again or share it with a friend, you can head on over to the UnitedPodcastNetwork.tv. That's UnitedPodcastNetwork.tv. You can find this episode and all previous episodes at the UnitedPodcastNetwork.tv. May you be inspired, feel empowered, and be well.
The views and opinions expressed by the hosts, guests, or callers of this program do not necessarily reflect the opinions of the Studio 21 Podcast Café, the United Podcast Network, its partners, or affiliates.